Welcome to the Purposed Marriage Podcast. If you are in a marriage that is damaged, broken, and think all hope is lost, we invite you to listen in to today's broadcast. We pray that through this ministry, you will find biblical encouragement and instruction that will lead you and your spouse, no matter the heart condition, to a closer walk and fellowship with the Lord Jesus Christ. God can and does heal marriages, no matter how desperate or impossible the circumstances may appear to be. And now, here is today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Purposed Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Larson. With me is my co-host, Amy Larson. Say hello, Amy.
Hello.
Amy is just now able to compose herself. She was laughing uncontrollably a couple minutes ago, and so now we have full composure and are ready to continue with our lesson for today, which actually has to do with arguments, winning the argument against divorce. And prior to Amy and I getting divorced, I would say that it was a rare day when we didn't have an argument.
But we didn't argue well.
Is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you're going to have a point of view. Your spouse is going to have a point of view. And those opposing points of view can butt up against one another. But I believe it's the manner and spirit upon which you express those views that determines how it can positively or negatively affect the relationship. What we want to try to communicate today is that there's a right way to go about arguing against a spouse who is pursuing divorce, and we're going to explore that. All right, so to begin, I'm going to recount a time early on. This is when I was actually out of the house, and our oldest son had an event at his school, sort of a family, what would you call that, Amy?
Well, it was a family fun event.
A family fun event at school. And, well, I'll tell you what, Amy, why don't you go ahead and set it up. Describe what it was like, what your expectations were coming in to that.
So that evening, it was during the evening, and it was kind of like a carnival. They had lots of bouncy houses and rides and face painting and games for the kids. And they had food as well, so it was just a night where families could come out and enjoy the evening together. And from my point of view, I thought what I was doing was a great thing because I actually invited Tommy for us to go together as a family. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, see, I'm a great person because I'm inviting him to come be along, with the boys and I, as we have fun and celebrate. Even though I often would remind him that he was no longer my family, I didn't want to be his family, those types of things. So I had invited him. We had planned to meet there, and once we met up, we went in, we had a great time, the boys were having fun. I would think that it was somewhat of a normal evening.
Well, by all outward appearance,
it looked normal.
Like a happy family.
Right.
That was there together.
Yes. And I think that's what I like to focus on a lot is, we want to keep the family unit together in public, and we can argue and bicker behind closed doors, but when we go out, people need to see that we're capable of having a separation that's happy, and, we can be together and not kill each other. And, really, I think more than anything, I was really striving to look for or to have a nice outward appearance for everyone to see. So, yeah, by all outwardly accounts, it was a normal evening. And as we were kind of wrapping up the night, Tommy had asked if I wanted to go get dessert somewhere. And I had already made other plans with one of my friends. It was also the weekend. I believe this was a Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And so really our meetup was also to exchange the boys. And I knew that he was taking the boys, and I had other plans with one of my girlfriends. And so, that the idea of, well, let's go get dessert, that did not fit into the plans that I had made for that evening. So I politely declined and literally said, no, thank you. I think that's all I said. I didn't give a reason or offer any explanation. It was just, no, thank you.
Well, the reason came out a little bit later when we actually started to argue.
Yes.
You said, I have plans with so-and-so.
Right. But initially, I felt like I didn't need to explain anything to you. We were
Right.
separated, and no means no. I can just say no, and that would be the end of it. And that wasn't the end of it, unfortunately, as we were leaving. I think the awareness of where we were regarding our situation and, putting on this face of happy family when we are heading back to our cars and exchanging suitcases and children, I think all of that came to a head. And Tommy got very, very upset. And how I viewed it at the time was that he was just angry because he couldn't control me and make me go have dessert with him. And that really wasn't it at all, but that's absolutely how I viewed it. And so he, from what I recall, he got angry and his tone got louder. And, I'm trying to calm him down, saying, control yourself, you're making a scene.
At that point, I was really of the mindset that I don't care. I mean, we are painting this picture, and
we're a happy family.
It is complete hypocrisy.
Yeah. Well, and it was.
People walking by, they are seeing us exchanging suitcases, and you expect me to be civil and not call things out for what they are.
Right.
And that's basically what was driving my anger there. It was
right.
The hypocrisy and
see, I saw it as just the controlling, angry man.
Right. But, the way I handled that didn't lead to anything good, at least that evening. And then later on in the evening, we had a conversation on the phone. I don't know if you remember that at all.
I don't.
Well, I think I had sent a message to you. This was after I was back at the apartment with the boys, and I said, hey, let's talk about this. And you called, and we probably spent about an hour on the phone, and you were basically trying to communicate that we have to change the way we act out in public, and that's when I first heard the words that God has made the path for you crystal clear. It was that conversation,
okay.
And that I needed to basically just deal with the reality.
Right.
And I argued back with you during that conversation, and it was getting nowhere. I mean, the arguing for me was getting absolutely nowhere. The only thing that was happening, it's like it caused you to just dig in deeper.
Right.
The things that I was saying.
And really, most of the things that you were saying, the reason that I probably don't recall that exact discussion is because after that, you can, as the prodigal, what you said is so true. We dig in deeper and hold to what we like to call our truth and literally tune out everything else. So really anything that you said, I was not listening. I was tuning it out so that when you stopped talking, I could make my point. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, and I don't believe there was any headway made either way.
No.
It was a very
painful experience, to be honest with you. I felt sick over the evening and how things had unfolded. I thought the way we left, it painted a horrible picture. I mean, people who walked past us, saw us arguing. Two separate cars. The kids in one car crying.
Yes, they were crying.
It was a bad scene, and at that point, I hadn't reached a level of maturity and discernment so as to know how to effectively diffuse that situation and basically and essentially turn the other cheek. It's not that I wasn't speaking truth to her.
Right, well, everything that you were saying was correct.
But it's like arguing with somebody who is
not listening.
Not listening, and this is not to call you a fool, Amy, or for those of you who have arguments with your spouse, this is not to paint them as a fool, but there's one scripture that came to my mind, and I wrote it down here, Proverbs 26, 4 through 5. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. Mm-hmm. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. So basically, what we're hearing here is to not stoop to the level of your prodigal and try to they make their point, and then you have your counterpoint, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. It's not going to yield any good fruit. In order for them to change, the Holy Spirit is going to have to grab a hold of their heart, and you're going to have to argue with them, not in words, but with deeds, and those deeds are going to look dramatically different than at least what I was showing on that particular day.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, argue in love. God teaches us to speak the truth in love, and I would say that nothing that evening was spoken in love. It was spoken out of frustration.
Yeah, it was a lot of frustration, and I understand that frustration, having been there, and you want to try to convince your prodigal that you are right and that what they are doing is not of God. It's only going to bring about suffering and pain, and
all of that is true.
That's all true.
All of it's
but
true.
you are not going to be able to convince them. In fact, it drives them further in the other direction. And of course, in my case, because I had this label placed on me of being a controller, anything that I said or did that was contrary to what Amy wanted to do was seen as me trying to control her, even if it lined up with Scripture. So I was really in a lose-lose situation from the very beginning. And, as more time went on, I realized I'm not going to be able to fight this battle with my words. I mean, this is a hold that has to be broken, and God is the only one who can change it. Break those chains. And there was a good lesson that was learned there, at least for me at the time. And
and it's good to, I'm so thankful that we can, look back on the past and talk about it. And, all I saw was a controlling, angry man that's just shouting and, making our children cry. And I didn't see my part in, actually, no, Amy, you and your words and what you're doing and your walk towards divorce, that is what's leading everyone to tears. But you can't, the prodigal really sometimes they can't see it. They will have times of reflection and times of clarity where it's like, oh, that, that makes sense, or this is what's happening. But more often than not, we are digging our heels in. We are out to divorce, or we're out to live our own life or find our own happiness, or a lot of those key terms used. And we really, we're not looking to hear the truth. We're not looking to change our minds or have our hearts changed. We're looking to do things our way and not God's way. And so I'm thankful that now we can have these conversations, and we have had conversations about past events where I can ask Tommy, hey, remember when we had this argument? Like, I just saw you as controlling. Like, what were you thinking? And, once there was an explanation that, look, we're being completely hypocritical by our outward appearance at this family fun event. We're all looking happy, like everything's normal, and that we're just two separated, happy people coming together to co-parent our kids. And really, that wasn't true. I mean, that was an outward appearance we were trying to portray, or that I was trying to portray. And I actually, was trying to get Tommy to play along.
Well, yeah, and you were trying to paint a picture, and I knew what the picture was that you were trying to paint, and I didn't want to have any part of it.
Right. And once I think you explained that, it totally made sense to me of why you were so upset and why, like, to me, it just seemed like, well, he's just mad because I don't want to get dessert, because he can't control what I do and where I go. And really, like, those weren't even the reasons at all that you were actually upset. It went much deeper than me going out with you and the boys for dessert.
Yeah. Well, the next situation we're going to discuss is basically a complete reversal of how I approached the situation. So, again, having to do with our oldest son, he was having a birthday party, getting ready to turn, 7, 8 at the time? I can't remember. But you had planned to have
I think 6 turning 7.
Okay, all right. A birthday party, and you decided to plan it on a Wednesday night, okay, at a time when I wouldn't be able to actually attend because I had other obligations. And I had expressed my desire to be with the family, be with Amy and the boys during this time. And basically what I heard was, well, this was the only time everybody could get together. And I thought, well, what about, it's like everybody except me.
Everybody except their father.
Yeah. And so, of course, I was disappointed. I was hurt. But I asked the Lord to make clear to me a way to use that event as an opportunity to show love and sacrifice to Amy. And so it was made very clear to me that I was going to pay for whatever the cost of the birthday celebration was and not have an expectations to actually attend. And so I did share with Amy. I said, look, I want to do this. Whatever you have planned, take this money and use it. I understand I'm not going to be there, but I want you to use this regardless. And I think how that differs from where I was a long time prior to that. Whereas before I would want to argue my case and say, no, I need to be there. Can't you see how bad this looks? I mean, I really wanted to be there. I was very disappointed and very hurt. But I believed in my heart and with the Lord's leading that the way to demonstrate true love to Amy and to my son was to sacrifice. So in this sense, I was still able to be a part of the party. I was demonstrating love, and the fact that I wasn't there showed that I was sacrificing something. And I think ultimately that made an impression on Amy. Maybe not at the time, although I don't know.
No, I
don't know.
It definitely made an impression on me at the time, but I don't think it fully. Like I don't think I fully comprehended the sacrifice and the importance of that until much later. I ended up everything that Tommy said was true. I had planned the birthday party. What he hasn't told you, that he does know, but what he hasn't told you is that I actually planned it on a night that he could not be there, knowing that he would not be able to be there because of his prior obligations, as to appear that I was, extending an invitation, knowing that he could not commit to come that evening. So it appeared that, oh, she's inviting me, when in reality I purposely planned it so that he was not available to come. And I think at one point I even told him, look, if you want to have a party for Micah, I mean, you can do that with you and your friends. These are my friends and my family, and I'm going to have a party for him. And if you want to do the same, I invite you to do that. You should do that. I
encourage you to do that. I remember you sent me an email.
Yeah, but it was very, what's the word? Very demeaning. I didn't mean it. It was like, look at me. I'm so proud of myself because I'm planning this party. And you're the father, and you're not even planning anything. You just want to piggyback off of my party. I mean, that really is how I saw it in my mind at the time. And it's like, this is the father of your children. This is your husband. At the time, well, no, I guess we were officially divorced at the time.
Yeah.
But
you had your piece of paper, so
yeah,
in your mind,
I was satisfied with, with myself and how, great of a mom I was to have planned this. And if he really loved our son, he would plan his own party. And just a very demeaning type attitude towards Tommy. And, it again, it appeared to be, oh, we want to invite you to this party, when in reality, I had no intentions of him coming. And in fact, I mean, I don't know what I would have done if he said, hey, I got this other commitment, moved, and now I can come. I mean, I suppose at that point I would have probably made something up like, well, I already gave him the head count, no one else can come, or just told him at that point, well, I said that to be nice, but you're uninvited. I mean, I really think that that's probably how that would have went down, just because, there weren't any kind intentions at all.
Yeah, and I think if I was operating with my flesh, to hear an argument come back at me like that, I probably would have said something along the lines of, well, you're accepting this money, maybe I'll just take that back.
Right.
And I'm not good enough for you, then neither is my money.
Right. Well, and also, I mean...
again, that wouldn't have done any good, and it wouldn't have been obedient to the sacrifice that I was being called to make.
What God
that was very clear to me. You're going to demonstrate love and sacrifice here. You're not going to argue with your mouth. You're going to accept what's handed to you. You're going to take it. You're going to suffer for this. And ultimately, that sacrifice did make an impression.
Oh, yeah. It made a huge impression. And not only to me, but also to my parents, who were in attendance at the birthday party, when they found out that, oh, well, we don't have to pay for anything because Tommy paid for everything. I mean, that caught their attention as well. And so it was very, shocking. And we're not talking about like, here's $20. I mean, it was a significant amount of money that he had given me for this celebration. But I do believe that later, and in fact, 2 weeks later, him sacrificially giving in that way allowed me to be vulnerable to let him continue to show me love. I had an openness and a vulnerability to him in a way that I never had before, because of the way he sacrificed and showed love, even when I was, not demonstrating love. To see him in that light, that, wow, he's willing to give me this money and pay for this birthday party when he wasn't even invited. He's missing out on his son's birthday party. If he's willing to do that, I mean, what is he not willing, to do for, our family? So that spoke volumes to me.
1 Peter 2:23 says, "When he was reviled, he did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly." And the closer I grew to the Lord, the more I understood and realized that the battle that was being waged was one that had to be won through love and through the power of Christ alone. I could play a role in securing the victory by being obedient to the Lord and following the example of Christ by demonstrating humility, sacrifice, and love. Those are the types of things that really had an impact on Amy and actually worked to soften her heart and change her perspective. So it wasn't the arguments that I was trying to win with my words, where I was quoting scripture or just basically proclaiming the truth or explaining the reality of the situation or countering her outlook and perspective of a future that didn't involve me and her together. That wasn't working. It never worked. And I had to let the Lord do what he needed to do. And again, praise God for the power of the Lord and what he was able to achieve through obedience. And again, anytime we share things with you all, that is not ever to heap praise upon ourselves, but it is always to bring praise and glory to the Father, because that's what this is all about. This is all about glory being given to the one to whom glory is due.
Yeah, and we tried in our own power, to mend things during our 10-year marriage. I mean, I tried on my own, but not fully giving God the weight of my burden, and not allowing God to, fully take control. I tried to do things in my own power, and it didn't work. And then once we were separated, I believe, Tommy in the beginning tried to do things in his own power, and it didn't work. And it was only when we were both just fully committed to the Lord and to restoration and watching him make movements in our lives and allowing him to change our hearts and our minds and our perspectives on things. So, glory be to God for all the work that he's able to do. And we humbly accept that we cannot do the work of the Holy Spirit.
1 John 3:18, "Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth." So for you as a stander who maybe find it hard to not express with words your love to your prodigal who is leaving or fleeing or running, I know that's very hard. Early on, I tried to tell you how much that I loved you repeatedly, and that would always just fall on deaf ears. And that was hard, and I thought that, well, if she doesn't hear it, she's not going to know how I feel about her. I have to continually express this because I never expressed it throughout the 10 years of our marriage. But by that time, I had basically gotten tuned out. And so no matter how many times I said it, she wasn't hearing it. It wasn't doing any good. And,
Right.
and in fact, she said she didn't want to hear it.
Right. I didn't want to hear it. And I think it's also important to state that these were things, what Tommy said was true. These were things that he hadn't said in the past. And even though I know that he truly felt them, and at the time he had been repentant, he was very sorry for the way that things had gone. He was already in biblical counseling at the time. But because it was such a drastic change, and all of a sudden he's pouring out this love and telling me how much he loves me and trying to, do this and that and the other for me by giving me gifts or whatever it may be, I saw that as, wow, how fake can he be? And I saw it as just a fakeness that, okay, now he knows things are not going well, so he's going to pour on the gifts. He's going to pour on the I love yous. He's going to, tell me how wonderful I am when he never told me that, or if he did, very rarely during our marriage. And so from the prodigal's point of view, oftentimes if these are things that you haven't shared with your wife or your husband in a while, telling them how beautiful they are or how much you love them or how you want to, spend the rest of your life with them. If those aren't things that you have told them and then you just start pouring that on thick when things get rough, they're going to look at that as fakeness. They're not going to see an authenticity in that.
Okay, so they're going to see it as disingenuous?
Disingenuous,
they're just
absolutely.
Words, you're just trying to get me back.
Yes, you're just trying to get me back. These are just words. And then once we get back together, you're going to go back to your old ways. And that's very much how my mindset was. And I think that that's why, truly, even after I'd seen a significant change in Tommy's life, I think it still took a good, year or 6 months at least before I was even willing to think about giving him, any type of a chance again.
Yeah, well, and two, I was really, by telling you how much I loved you and desired for our family to be restored, I was attempting to win an argument with my words.
Right.
And again, that wasn't working. That wasn't the way to effectively argue. Now, what was having an impact was not what I was saying, but what I was doing over a prolonged period of time, to the extent that Amy was able to see patterns of actual demonstrable change.
And I think also, speaking to that, it's patterns of change. We'll counsel with couples or individuals, and maybe they've been standing for 4 months, 3 months, 2 weeks, whatever the case may be. They say, well, what good is this because my spouse isn't even seeing it, or what good is this change? How long do I have to do this before they see it? And the answer is, you're not doing it for your spouse. You're doing it in obedience to God. And if you want your spouse to see any type of change in your life and in your heart, and to actually see what God is doing in your life, it has to be prolonged periods that they may have to see this. So, if you've tried it and you're doing it for a couple of months and you're like, well, it's not working, I'm just I'm gonna give up, that's not the answer.
Well, and if that's your attitude, then in my opinion, there really wasn't any genuine change.
Exactly.
If your heart has truly been changed, then you'll continue to do it regardless of how your prodigal sees it or reacts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
Yes.
Right there. So, in wrapping things up today, we want to communicate that when it comes to arguing or trying to make your case, follow the example of Christ. He was humble. He sacrificed. He loved unconditionally.
He was a servant.
He was a servant leader. Let him be your model. Pattern your life after the Lord Jesus Christ. Serve him. You serve him by serving others. And when it comes to winning the argument, zip your lips. All right? It's not going to do you any good to try to win those arguments verbally. But if you can show sacrifice with your actions, eventually, over a period of time, that will have an impact. I'm not going to say when or how, but if you have genuinely changed and you are following the example of Christ, people can't help but see that change.
Yeah, they can't help but notice.
That's right.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Purposed Marriage Podcast. We hope and pray it strengthens and further equips you to remain committed to your marriage, no matter the condition or circumstances. For more information and links to resources from our ministry, be sure to follow us on social media and through our official blog at purposedmarriage.org. If you have questions about standing for your marriage and desire to learn more about how to live biblically during times of trial and heartache, please reach out to us via email. Our address is purposedmarriage@gmail.com. Until our next broadcast, may God continue to strengthen and encourage as you pursue a Christ-honoring and purposed marriage.